The camera drifts over a modern-day naval base at dusk. Flags snap in winter wind, halyards clanging softly, a metallic heartbeat echoing through the courtyard. Floodlights hum to life, casting long shadows across the parade deck. In the United States Armed Forces, medals are more than metal. They are history hammered into shape, proof that someone stood up when the world fell down. But tonight, in the cold shadow of a federal courthouse, a different kind of battle is unfolding. One that has nothing to do with enemy fire, and everything to do with truth. Lieutenant Commander Alyssa Hawk Hartley, a medically retired Navy SEAL, sat quietly in her wheelchair as the judge's gavel cracked through the courtroom. Judge Raymond Kellerman didn't look at her as he spoke. He spoke over her, like she was a bureaucratic inconvenience, not a woman who had once dragged 2 Marines out of a collapsing compound while bleeding from her own lungs. Under Article 118(32), he said, sliding a document across his desk, "You are hereby ordered to relinquish and remove the Silver Star previously awarded to you, effective immediately." The words hit her like a round to the vest, wind knocked out, ribs bruised, her Silver Star. The medal pinned to her chest in a quiet ceremony without reporters, without cameras, because the mission was classified. A medal earned in a country the Pentagon pretended they weren't in. A medal awarded because she had saved her entire team, -1. And now, this judge, this civilian who never felt the weight of a rucksack or the bite of cold steel in the dark, wanted to erase it. Her attorney, Captain Marcus Hale, leaned in. "Sir, respectfully, this order is unprecedented." "What grounds?" Kellerman raised a hand. "You may file an appeal, Captain, but the court has reviewed the Department of Defense's new internal findings. Lieutenant Commander Hartley's award was improperly justified." Hawk swallowed hard. She knew this wasn't about justification. It was about politics, about the wrong people being embarrassed when the truth leaked. Kellerman finally looked at her, eyes flat. "Veteran Hartley, hand it over." He held out his palm. The courtroom went quiet enough to hear the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Alyssa reached into her pocket, pulled out the small velvet case, opened it. The Silver Star glinted faintly under the courtroom lights. Cold, metallic, undeservedly condemned. She didn't hand it to him. She set it on the table with quiet defiance. Kellerman's eyebrow twitched. He had expected obedience. Instead, he got discipline without submission. "Dismissed," he snapped. Alyssa didn't move. She stared at the medal one last time, jaw tightening, breath steady. Then she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "You can take a medal, you won't take the truth." Outside the courthouse, frigid wind tore at her uniform. Marcus pushed her chair, but Alyssa suddenly braced her palm on the wheels. "Stop." He halted. Reporters hovered behind barricades, but not for her. No one cared about a disabled female SEAL losing her medal. It wasn't newsworthy, it wasn't glamorous, but inside the Pentagon, inside SOCOM, inside the networks that thrived on secrecy, rumors were starting. Some said she'd falsified after-action reports. Others whispered she'd left a teammate behind. The worst rumor claimed she'd panicked, frozen during the fight, and her medal was a political cover. Alyssa exhaled sharply, breath fogging the air. "Someone wants this," she said. "Someone with pull." Marcus nodded grimly. "We're going to find out who." But Alyssa already had an idea, a name she'd been trying not to think about for years. Commander Jeffrey Rourke, her former CO, the man who had rewritten sections of the mission's classified debrief, then mysteriously received a promotion the same year she received her injury and retirement. Rourke, who had left their teammate, Petty Officer Grant Marlowe, to die that night. Alyssa had disobeyed Rourke's direct order to retreat. She'd gone back for Marlowe, dragged him 300 meters under fire. Got both her legs shattered in the process. The command discovered Rourke's order only months later. The Navy buried it. Rourke's file remained clean. Alyssa received the Silver Star instead of the accountability she sought. Now the Navy wanted the medal gone, because if the medal went away, the story behind it went away too. 2 days later, Alyssa and Marcus arrived at Naval Base Coronado under a sky heavy with marine fog. Security slowed them at the gate, scanning IDs and watching Alyssa with the guarded curiosity people often reserved for wounded warriors, admiration tangled with discomfort. As they entered the base offices, a young lieutenant stopped mid-walk, surprised, "Ma'am, Hartley?" he whispered. Alyssa nodded, his face tightened with a mixture of respect and sadness. I heard about the ruling," he said. "None of us believe it. That hit harder than she expected." She inhaled, steadied herself. "Thank you, Lieutenant." They proceeded to the Internal Affairs Division, where a middle-aged investigator flipped through classified folders like he was handling old receipts. "We can't give you copies," he said, "but you can review these documents under supervision." Alyssa scanned the paperwork. There it was. The change she feared, a supplemental statement, dated only a week earlier, signed by Commander Jeffrey Rourke, declaring that the Silver Star was recommended based on inaccurate recollection during traumatic stress, and that the original heroic narrative was misinterpreted. Misinterpreted, like she had imagined dragging Marlowe's limp body through dust and blood, like the gunfire had been fireworks, like the night never happened. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. They're rewriting the op. Alyssa felt her pulse spike, not in anger, clarity. "They're burying it," she said. "But they forgot one thing." "What?" Marcus asked. She looked up. "I was never the only witness." Marlowe, petty officer, Grant. Marlowe. He had survived that night, barely. 2 bullets removed from his torso, burns across his back, permanent tissue damage. But he survived. And after months of rehab, he quietly left the Navy, discharged with no press, no honors, only a handshake and a disability rating that barely scratched the truth. Alyssa hadn't seen him in over a year. Finding him wasn't easy, but special operations is a small world. Within 24 hours, she had an address. She arrived at a small house in Oceanside, plain, quiet, curtains drawn. Marlowe opened the door slowly, leaning on a cane. His face froze when he saw her. "Hawk?" She swallowed the knot in her throat. "Hey, Grant." He stepped aside without another word. The living room was dim, lined with half-unpacked moving boxes. A TV played a muted daytime news channel. Grant motioned for her to sit. She rolled her chair close. "You heard?" she asked. He nodded. Everyone heard. Rourke's been whispering around the community, trying to get ahead. He exhaled bitterly. "And now the judge's order." Alyssa nodded. "Grant, I need you. I need your voice." He looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who had bled beside him. At the scars running down her hands. At the steel will still burning behind her eyes. "Hawk," he said gently, "I'm not the same man. I can't. You're the only one who knows what really happened. If they erase what we lived through, they erase you too." Marlowe stared at the muted television. For a long time, he didn't speak. Then quietly, "I remember everything." "Then tell it," she whispered. He nodded. Slow, shaky. "For you? For the team?" "Yeah, I'll talk." A week later, a review board convened on base. Not a full trial, not a public hearing, just a procedural check on the judge's order. The Navy expected it to be routine. Rubber stamped, swept under the rug. But Alyssa's presence changed everything. She entered the room in her wheelchair, uniform pressed, posture straight. Grant Marlowe walked in behind her, cane clicking, shoulders tense. Commander Rourke was already seated. When he saw Marlowe, the color drained from his face. The board officer began. "This session concerns the revocation of the Silver Star awarded to Lieutenant Cmdr Alyssa Hartley for actions on." Alyssa interrupted. "With respect, sir, the board should also consider newly surfaced statements." Rourke stiffened. Marcus handed the board a folder. Marlowe's sworn affidavit. The officer read silently. His eyes widened. "Commander Rourke," he said slowly, "this testimony contradicts your supplemental statement." Rourke cleared his throat. "I stand by my assessment." Hartley misremembered key. Grant slammed his cane once on the floor. "That's a lie." The room froze. Marlowe stood, chest heaving. "I was there. I was dying." Rourke ordered retreat. Hawk disobeyed because she refused to leave me behind. She dragged me to safety under fire while he pulled back the team. Rourke's face hardened. "Petty officer, your condition, your trauma." "My trauma?" Marlowe barked. "My trauma didn't rewrite your orders. You left me." The board officer held up a hand. "Commander Rourke, did you give an order to retreat before Petty Officer Marlowe was accounted for?" Rourke hesitated. "A fatal mistake. I made a tactical assessment." "Did you know Marlowe was missing?" Silence. Then, "Yes." A murmur spread through the room. Alyssa watched him, not with triumph, but with a deep, bone-heavy sadness. Rourke continued, voice cracking slightly. It was dark. Confusion. I made the call. I stand by it. But you amended the mission debrief to suggest Lieutenant Cmdr Hartley exaggerated her actions, the officer said. Why? Rourke swallowed. For operational clarity. The officer closed the folder. Commander Rourke, based on testimony and inconsistencies, your statement appears self-serving and misleading. Rourke's jaw clenched. This is outrageous. But the officer wasn't listening anymore. He turned to Alyssa. Chapter Cmdr Hartley, your Silver Star remains valid pending further review. Alyssa closed her eyes. Relief didn't wash over her. Not yet. There was something deeper brewing, something final. 2 days later, Alyssa submitted a formal complaint, not through Navy channels, but through the DoD Inspector General, accompanied by Marlowe's testimony. The original mission logs, Rourke's supplemental statement, a timeline of edits to the classified report. And one more thing, a recorded confession. During a private moment after the board hearing, Rourke had confronted her. You won't win, he said. The Navy protects its own. Alyssa, calm and razor-sharp, had replied, Then why are you sweating? He stepped closer, whispering venom. You should never have gotten that medal. You were a PR move to cover a botched op. I fixed the report to protect the command. You and Marlowe should have let it go. What he didn't know, Marcus had been recording. Within a week, the Inspector General launched an inquiry. Within a month, the Pentagon called for a full review. 2 months later, Rourke was removed from his post, stripped of command, flagged for misconduct, forced into early retirement. His career didn't just end, it collapsed. The Silver Star Review became public. News outlets picked up the story, not the whole classified operation, but enough. Disabled SEAL fought attempt to strip medal. Corruption revealed. And for the first time, Alyssa wasn't silent. She spoke at a press briefing outside the courthouse where the nightmare began. Reporters clicked cameras as she rolled forward. My medal was never the issue, she said. The issue was truth. The issue was what happens when someone tries to bury it. She glanced at Grant Marlowe beside her, standing tall despite the cane. No one in uniform fights alone, she said. Not in battle, not in recovery, not in justice. The crowd went quiet. This was never about punishment, she continued. Not for me, not for Rourke. This was about accountability, about making sure no service member is sacrificed to protect a lie. Her voice softened. The Silver Star isn't mine alone. It belongs to every operator who stood with me, and to one we almost lost. Marlowe blinked back tears. And if the Navy wants to take it someday? She finished. She smiled faintly. They can try, but the truth isn't something you can revoke. 5 months later, Alyssa sat alone at Silver Strand Beach. Evening waves rolled gently, foaming around her wheels. The sunset painted the sky in molten gold. She opened her hand. The Silver Star lay in her palm, warm from her touch. She remembered the night she earned it. The sand, the smoke, the bleeding, the choice she made. Not a heroic choice, not a movie moment, just a promise, to never leave anyone behind. Marlowe approached quietly and sat beside her. You did it, he said. We did it. Waves crashed softly. He looked at her. You're still Hawk, you know. She smiled. Always. He hesitated. You think the Navy will change after this? Alyssa shook her head gently. Institutions change slowly. People change faster. She glanced at the medal. But truth, courage, those don't change at all. Fade in. A medal glinting in a soft sunset. A wheelchair on the beach. 2 silhouettes. Warriors shaped by scars, not broken by them. In war, courage is measured in split seconds. In peace, it is measured in years. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought without bullets, against people wearing the same flag you swore to protect. But integrity has a gravity of its own, and when one person refuses to bend, entire systems eventually break. The camera tightens on the Silver Star. Medals can be given, and they can be taken away. But honor is earned every day, fade out. Courage isn't always charging into gunfire. Sometimes it's standing alone in a room full of powerful people and telling the truth. Medals shine, but integrity is what truly lasts.